Because Christians in the past forgot God's command in Deuteronomy to remember God's works in history and to pass them down to the next generation, history has been rewritten by the enemies of God. Edward Gibbons, who is considered to be a renowned historian today, says, "History is merely the recounting of the crimes of the evolving human species." He says, "We learn from history that we have nothing to learn from history." Really. This reflects, unfortunately, a common philosophy of history that many people hold today. It's been called the "who cares" philosophy. But this "who cares" view of history is really no different than deism. What's deism? Deism is the belief that the universe was created by a God, but that this God left man alone from that point on. In short, God does not intervene in the affairs of man. Today's schools often point to Ben Franklin as a deist. And true, he was for most of his life, until the Revolutionary War. And then, like many of us, it took a crisis to bring him to that point where he finally recognized the obvious, that God does intervene on our behalf when our cause is righteous. Now, I'm going to read you a quote from Benjamin Franklin when he was near the end of his life, not long after America had won their fight for independence from Great Britain. He's addressing the 55 members of the Continental Congress, who had been given the task of writing a new constitution that would unite the 13 colonies. Before I read it, though, let me lay some context for you. The year is 1787. The delegates had reached a stalemate and were about to give up in this attempt to come up with a constitution. Some had already left for their home state when the elder statesman of them all, at age 81, Ben Franklin, stood and spoke these words. "The small progress we have made after 4 or 5 weeks of close attendance and continual reasonings with each other, without coming to any major agreements, is a melancholy proof, a sad proof, of the imperfection of human understanding. We indeed seem to feel our own want or need of political wisdom, since we've been running about in search of it. We've gone back to ancient history for models of government and examined the different forms of those republics. And we've viewed the modern states all around Europe. We find none of their constitutions suitable to our circumstance. In this situation of this assembly, groping as it were in the dark to find political truth, and scarce able to distinguish it even when it's presented to us, how has it happened, sir, that we have not hitherto once thought of humbly applying to the Father of lights to illuminate our understanding? In the beginning of the contest with Great Britain, when we were sensible of danger, we had daily prayer in this room for divine protection. Our prayers, sir, were heard, and they were graciously answered." Now, that doesn't quite sound like a deist, does it? He continues, "All of us who were engaged in the struggle must have observed frequent instances of a superintending providence in our favor. Miracles by the hand of God. We saw miracles," is what he's saying. To that kind providence, we owe this happy opportunity of consulting in peace on the means of establishing our future national felicity or our happiness. And have we now forgotten that powerful friend? Do we imagine that we no longer need his assistance? I've lived, sir, a long time, and the longer I live, the more convincing proofs I see of this truth, that God governs in the affairs of man. And if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground with his notice, is it probable that an empire can rise without his aid? We've been assured, sirs, in the sacred writings, in the Bible, that except the Lord build, they labor in vain that build it. And I firmly believe this. Now, that is a Christian worldview. He continues, "And I also believe that without his concurring aid, that we shall succeed in this political building no better than the builders of Babel." Franklin then made a motion that a pastor be appointed and salaried to begin every session of Congress with prayer. Soon afterward, according to New Jersey delegate Jonathan Dayton, the Congress adjourned for 3 days and went as a group from church to church, hearing one sermon after another, addressing the very situations that they had just been arguing over. When they returned, Dayton stated that Every unfriendly feeling had been expelled and a spirit of conciliation had been cultivated. Within a few short weeks, our Constitution, now known as the greatest governing document in all of history, was completed. Why? Because this ex-deist urged everyone to pray to the God of the Bible. America was no accident. God kept it hidden from civilized man for 5,000 years and then created a perfect storm of people and circumstances that brought the Pilgrims and the Puritans to America and established a new nation based upon the principles taken from the Bible. And we're here at this moment in time, not as accidental appearances upon the scene of history, but as chosen, unique instruments of God's providential hand, called to accomplish a very specific task, which will prepare the next generation of the chosen and called for their task. We're a link in the chain, and our responsibility is to grab it, learn it, find God, know how to apply His principles in our lives, and then pass that knowledge on to the next generation. Don't let it be forgotten. It's a great high calling.